If you're going to get honest now. We're not going to email it to them, just write it. And I think that that's where they start to unlock.
What's the inciting incident in your book?
It would be waking up from the dream. Absolutely. And sitting in my living room and really thinking, oh, I know. And then what do I do now? That's the inciting incident. There's a whole journey that comes from that. And most people, like clients that I work with in their books, it's usually that one, it's not always like the most exciting moment necessarily. It's that inside moment where you know something's going to change forever. And it did.
When you went to sleep the night before, had you watched a movie? Did something happen? Do you think triggered it? Or no, it was just
time.
It was just time. Why did you procrastinate writing for so long? I know you had this realization, but weren't there other things you were putting off?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I had to go through a lot of different experiences so that I could know what to write about. So if I had just started writing right away from the dream, and I was journaling everything. So I had a lot of good material, but I hadn't lived enough yet to really see the difference, right? So like I had to be I had to be a survivor for a little while before I felt like I could really look at what I had slighted myself in living to write about what I could potentially have. And my second book, which is written and it's sitting on my laptop, is all about the next steps, which is you've put in a bunch of years as a survivor. You've seen the change and you're ready to leave behind that past of how you used to live. And you're ready to kind of now take this new you into another level of your life. But I am procrastinating on it. I've decided I want to write another book that's a lot more fun. So that can happen sometimes. You can get distracted. But I do believe everything is in the right time. So I know that my first book got published, so I know that another one will. And I've actually taken that book down, the first memoir. I took the rights back from the publisher in December. I don't feel like the service was done that it deserves. People read it and they go, this is like the most amazing book I've ever read on abuse. This should be a worldwide book, and the publisher did not do a good job. So, and neither did I, frankly, because today you have to be behind your book 100%. You can't rely on a publisher at all. And so I've taken the book rights back. I'm actually doing a second edition on it. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to put it out under my own publishing label.
Why rename it?
Kicking Abuse in the Ass was a very sort of, kind of title, right? And I want it to reach more people, so now I'm going to call it Awoken.
Okay. Do you think the title might scare certain people?
I want to go more direct, I think. What I've learned with my clients and helping them come up with book titles and chapter headings, there's a fine line between clever and kind of not really telling people what you're going to do for them in the book. Like Kicking Abuse in the Ass, it wasn't really what I was doing in the book 100%. It wasn't like I was going in there and slaying it. I was really being reflective.
Why do you think most writers procrastinate?
Oh, I could give you the longest list. I've heard everything from I'm afraid of being famous. What will I do with all my time when I'm famous? How am I going to take care? I don't want to upset my family members. I don't know if I can finish something I've started, so they don't even start. I don't have a writing degree. Like I don't have like I'm not a graduate of the Iowa State writing conference. So why bother? A lot of reasons. I can't find time in my schedule. I don't understand what kind of support I need. I don't know what kind of structure there should be. A million reasons.
You had talked about you were looking to maybe one day write and direct as the new Kim, what you saw as the new Kim. Do you think people don't know what the new self would be as this author? If that, like you talked about this fear of being famous, whatever, but also too, they'd be taking on this new persona that maybe they'd be leaving victimhood or whatever behind, and now, can you talk about that?
Oh,
like
yeah.
the new persona and how you transformed into that.
I love that. This question is such a beautiful question because it comes up actually more in the class I run called Own Your Authorship, where it's sort of that chasm between like they have the desire to tell their story, but the yes feels like kind of far, you know? And people come in and they take the class and they're like a little bit like, who are you? And who do you, a little bit like not chip on their shoulder, but, let's see what you got, And I just work them till, we do a prompt that's called, I hate you because. And many people write about themselves. And then I make them go back and write it about someone else. And they go, well, I don't want to hate somebody else. I go, well, you do. So why don't you tell us about it? Like, if you're going to get honest now. We're not going to email it to them. Just write it. And I think that that's where they start to unlock and they start to see themselves and start to be okay. And then they just really, like, you see a shift immediately where they're realizing, wait a minute, like, I have a story to tell. And then we do, come find a picture of yourself in your 20s. Some groups I'll do little kids. Like, I'll kind of intuitively gauge the group. I can tell very early on what I need to do with people. I'm very intuitive that way. And from that, writing about where they came from, you just see them start to just like light up. And then we talk about the author persona. What is your author persona? Like, who would you be if you were like a successful author? What does that look like? Would you have your own jet? Are you doing a book tour worldwide? Or is this where you make all your income? And you see a lot of the like, well, I don't know. I mean, is that well, we're not saying that's going to happen or not happen. I just want you to write about it, And so a lot of the resistance is it's almost like they feel like they're saying something that's not true by writing about it, even though it's a dream they have. So if you can get them to write about the dream, then the dream suddenly doesn't seem so far-fetched.
What do you think your biggest resistance was to writing?
I think for me, a lot of it was time. I was single parenting, trying to build a business, and I literally did not have any time. I also did not hire a coach, which I should have done. When I finally hired an editor, everything moved really fast because I was ready. But I think I didn't take my own medicine. I didn't bring in someone. I was telling everybody that were my clients how important it is to be coachable, and I wasn't being coached. So I'd say my resistance was I didn't think that I was worthy of exactly what I tell my clients to believe they're worthy of.
How do you know you have the right coach? So I'm sure there's a gazillion coaches, editors out there.
There's not a lot of book coaches that necessarily do a white glove service. I don't hear about a lot of them. I hear about, editors that might edit your book over 90 days or, and I'm doing more of like a deep dive into like the whole purview of the person. Like, what does this book mean to you? Like, what do you want to be with this book? Like, I often help people come up with trademarkable systems or business ideas or mantras that they can actually then claim as their own through the writing of the book that they couldn't see before. I'll be like, that's brilliant. Nobody else is doing that. And they'll be like, oh my God, yeah. So I'm not sure that that's so much of just an editor. I think that is definitely more of a coach because I'm seeing the human potential in that person through what they're sharing with me about who they are. And then we happen to be writing a book through it all.
So is this someone who already has a first draft finished that's coming to you?
I don't take people typically on that have a first draft because then we'd have to break it all up and then I'm just putting glue on something that's probably broken. So I like to work with people from the very, very start.
So if I call you and say, or email you and say, I would like to write about my life, I don't even have an outline. I'm just telling you this is my desire and we're going to go from there and structure it together.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to work, because we really just start from scratch. You know, we do the outline together, and then we go through 8 months of work.
What are some of the first questions you ask someone?
It really depends on the people. I mean, I don't have a formula more than outline day, first draft, second draft, third draft, get the book published. I ask them a lot of questions before I do the outline day with them, and kind of ask them about, you know, tell me about 3 amazing moments in your life. You know, write to me about what you think about yourself. What were some of your greatest accomplishments? If they've told me a little bit about something that happened in their life, or why they became a coach, or why they've been a binge eater, or, you know, what it was like in the Navy, I'll say, give me a couple scenes on that, because from that I can sort of get a tone of what it would be. And a lot of that is movie business work, you know, kind of seeing what the scenes are, and then wrapping around the scenes a narrative for the book.
Do you ever ask them the why?
Yeah, we do that in Own Your Authorship. We work out the why. Generally, because people that are not ready to write a book, the reason is because they're not confident in their why. So that's why I have them take the class. People that come to me ready to be a private client, they're pretty they've got a really good why. It might be a little bit smaller than they think. Like, I'll find a bigger why, but generally they come in with like, this is what I'm writing about. And I don't have to like work it.
So these aren't wishy-washy people on the fence. They're like,
there's no fence people that do my 1 year. No, there's not a lot of convincing. I like to say, like, if someone comes to me for a 1 year, they're usually like, there's no sell. They're just in. But if I'm on the phone with someone for a really long time, then generally they're not going to be a client right away.